It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Friday. Another crazy week coming to an end, kids. Gary, how are you?
Well, let me see. Harris got the coveted Liz Cheney endorsement.
The one everybody was waiting for.
Right, exactly. I mean, just incredible news out there that is just really stimulating the left. And Trump yesterday got, believe it or not, the even more coveted Cliff Clavin endorsement, John Ratzenberger.
A lot of people know that.
Hey, nair me. I have.
John is a friend of the show.
Yeah, he is. Good. He's a good guy, too. He really
good guy. We've had some very meaningful conversations about things that you and I have talked about, the important jobs. He kind of threw me a gut punch in one conversation. We were recording a podcast, and he goes, Eric, you and I don't do important jobs. And I was like, oh man. What did you say, John? And he was talking about, plumbers, electricians, people who work, and what we rely on as a society.
He had that show, right? Remember he had the show about people who... people unlike us who actually work for a living.
Right. Made in America, did he?
Maybe that was,
I know he had a couple of different shows. He's always been, I think his endorsement of Trump is no surprise. In fact, it would have been shocking if it came out and said Kamala Harris. Knowing John, it would have been shocking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you on it. But he's a good guy. But again, you can look at somebody, even though he had different roles and he's done a lot of stuff, since Cheers, that did sort of typecast him.
It did.
It just did, which is a character he came up with. The people don't know it. That's a character that he came up with.
It's interesting because I actually walked into a bar at an airport, and we were on the same flight. We were going to the same event, and he was with some of our staff at the bar at the airport, and that was kind of surreal. I walked in, and I was like, holy cow, this is a total Cliff Clavin moment. And he was sitting at the bar.
He created, he's the one that suggested that character. He went in, I think he went into audition for Norm.
Yeah.
And he just said that, and in talking to them, he said, you don't have a bar know-it-all.
Right.
A bar know-it-all who really doesn't know it all.
Yeah. Well.
So we got it. But when I saw that, I just saw the Ratzenberger, John Ratzenberger endorsement when I came in, the Liz Cheney thing. We knew it was going to happen yesterday, and that she was going to be there. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, like, you know as well as I do, the far left is just going, they're like, God, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? And I think I saw, was it AOC or Ilhan Omar who said, yeah, she's doing whatever she's going to do now. But when she gets in, we believe we can push her further left.
Yeah, interesting. We know that. We know that, in fact, you're not going to have to push her. Also, the International Association of Firefighters on Thursday said it would remain neutral. This is interesting for union leadership. It's most often, this isn't neutral. This means that they're going further right because in 2020 they endorsed Biden. The president, Edward Kelly, said the union membership voted by a margin of 1.2 percentage points not to endorse either Vice President Kamala Harris or President Trump. So I wonder what the choices were in that vote. Was it Trump, Kamala, none of the above? I'm just curious on that. Or was it an up-down vote on endorsing or not? I don't know. They didn't make that clear in the story, but it was union membership. and a 1.2% margin. So, not a shock. That's not a shock at all. So, another union non-endorsement. We knew from the Teamsters, we knew that was coming down. Union leadership had said, a great number of our members are going to be voting for Trump. So we knew that was happening. So no surprise, no shock there. But what a day, huh? Just crazy.
Oh, what a day. I mean, now, I guess there's a pause in the longshoremen strike.
Yeah, so they made an offer. The offer was up from 50%, and that offer now sits on the table for 90 days. They put the strike on pause for 90 days. If they don't take that offer, then in 90 days, then it's rescinded automatically. They have to. It's yay or nay. They have to take the offer, and then I guess it would start. The 3rd of January, 90 days.
Right now the discussion is on automation, and it really and it's funny because the spin on it. Here's what I think happened. I think number one, the news reports of the union leader and what he came out and said. You saw that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he basically came out and said, we can crush the country, we can do all this.
Right.
You don't say that.
No, you don't.
You don't say what he said there. And so he said that. He came off as a complete blowhard, especially now because they backed off on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's like, look, if you're going to go negotiate, you got to back off big time, understand how you come off. But when he did that, that wasn't good at all. And then you started seeing people started talking. Well, the union leader, he's making $900,000 a year.
Right.
He's, I don't know if he still had a yacht, has the yacht, but he had a yacht.
He's got a huge home.
Huge home, everything. And
Bentley parked out front of that home. I'm assuming it's his. There was a picture of it.
And so that was just bad publicity. But I think what really couple of things that put it over the edge, and you saw it on social media. People going crazy, going out and buying as much toilet paper as they can, even though the news meter was saying, no, toilet paper's made in the United States.
Right.
You're okay.
Yeah, we're good.
We're okay with it. But it just, that panic that I think a lot of people, felt from COVID, like, oh, no, we need to go out and do this, which then I'm sure the Biden-Harris administration was not happy with. But I think really the final thing that drove them to accept this was DeSantis. DeSantis coming out and saying, we're going to send the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to send them to the ports here in Florida. Mm-hmm. And if possible, use them to reopen the ports. Because all of a sudden, the Longshoremen's Union was in the way of possibly getting the things needed for the hurricane victims, and that was the last thing. It's like, there's too much negative publicity in this. That's what I believe was a partial cause, at least a partial cause of this, and maybe even more than just, if I say partial, I guess I'm saying less than 50%. I believe it was probably more than 50%, all the negative things that were going on while people are suffering, and you hear what they want, a 76%, 77% raise over 6 years. What do you mean they want a complete ban on automation? That's not going to happen. And I think that you had, I can't think of the organization that is there for the port workers that actually negotiates it, but I think they looked at it and said, well, we can offer 62%.
Yeah.
That came out, well, why don't you up the offer? Okay, we'll offer it and then negotiate everything else, because it can make 62%. That doesn't matter. Automation is coming.
Well, and that's where they are. That's the big pause button breaking point right there. 62. They were offered first 50, and then they wanted 77. 62 is not quite in the middle, but it gets you closer to the middle between those 2 points in negotiation. And a 62% raise over the life of that contract is a very healthy raise when you look by comparison. Here's the thing. It's what we were saying yesterday. You're not going to get public sympathy on this. If they came in and said, look at the working conditions, if there were viral videos coming out saying, look at the working conditions, we're having to work and we're not getting the pay, we're only making this amount of money and we're having to work around the clock, things like this, that builds sympathy. And people would say, yeah, they deserve better conditions, they deserve better pay, they deserve a better contract. Things like that, they're not enforcing safety rules or something like that. A number of things can help to build that public sympathy. When you're heading into Christmas season and people are wondering how they're actually even going to buy Christmas in the first place, let alone whether or not it's going to be on the shelf as a result of you wanting a 77% increase and your boss is making $900,000 a year and drives a Bentley, you get no sympathy from the public on that.
Yep, and then seeing the amount of money that they make. I will say this though: if you're a dock worker and you're not getting overtime, you're only making $81,000. It's not a lot of money in California.
Mm-hmm.
But with the overtime, they talked about I've seen figures anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 for it. But when you look at the Wall Street Journal also pointed out, and we pointed it out yesterday, only half of the 50,000 are actually working at ports. The rest are basically laid off with full pay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You cannot win that one, with the American public. But I really think the last straw where they had to say was DeSantis coming out and saying, we're going to send National Guard, whatever we have to do to the ports to ensure there's no violence and to open up where we can open up. And I think at that point it was like, all right, you're interfering. DeSantis is making the case that you're interfering because you're not allowing goods in with what can help the the rescuing of the people in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, whatever, North Carolina, that you can't win this.
Yeah,
I say Alabama not so much. I don't know why I said, but I know parts of probably East Alabama probably got hit hard. But you can't win that. And
right.
I think that was the point. You can't win it. And I'm sure, like I said, management's fine. Give them a 62% raise. It doesn't matter with automation coming in.
No, it doesn't. And again, I also think that at some point there was going to be pressure from the Democrats. The Democrats, at some point, probably through the White House, were going to put pressure on the union. Look, you're not getting any public sympathy, and you're killing it for us. So union leadership would probably pay attention to that, even though the members didn't. The members voted to stay neutral on the endorsement. Union leadership is clearly on the left.
Well, what I read in the Wall Street Journal is that Biden made a threat at management, saying if you don't do the 62%, then
I saw that. Yeah,
if you don't do the 62%, then we're going to look for any signs. The federal government will be all over you looking for any signs of price gouging.
Yeah, which they wouldn't find. They always they always throw these threats out. They're not going to find it. Eventually, it falls on if this had gone to a 3-week strike and shortages just days before the election, while early voting was in full swing. Politically, this falls on the Democrats. But there's no way around it.
I really think management went, though, we have no problem with the 62% as long as they don't get the total ban on automation.
Right.
Because if it comes now to January and they say, well, we're not happy with the 62%, you're not going to win public opinion on that one.
Right.
And then if you say we want to, our only goal is a complete ban on automation, you're not going to win that one either.
Right.
So I think that's why the management did what they did. I don't think it was the threat from Biden that he'll do whatever he can to do, to search out price gouging out there. But that's what they reported the threat was from the White House to management.
Well,
so the threat was not at the union,
right?
According to the reports,
right.
But I think the union and other Democrats looked at it and said, "You're not winning this, in the arena of public opinion.
Right. And 62% is a pretty healthy number. It's almost the halfway mark, meet in the middle. It's good enough for a 90-day pause. And that's basically what we have here. So we'll see what happens in 90 days.
We got a great show ahead.
We do.
The insanity continues, doesn't it?
It's crazy. It really is.
I'm telling you. It really does feel like you're debating with third graders, doesn't it?
It is like children. And it's like it really is like an adolescent just lying over and over again. That's what it feels like, everything coming out of the Harris campaign.
It's just insanity.
It is.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. Have your batteries tested by a certified technician. Dead batteries are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. Testing them now will indicate whether or not they can keep up with electrical demands of your truck this winter. When you have your batteries tested, check the alternator for sufficient amperage and voltage output as well. Find a professional technician near you to have your batteries and alternator tested today, so you'll be ready when the seasons change.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Not a good time in history to rise in the ranks of Hezbollah, is it?
No, it is not. It's interesting. You look at the talk about Biden and the whole thing. What was the headline? What did I get from the Washington Post? I had to keep this. Hold on. I don't think I did a screenshot. The Washington Post editor's pick. All right, this is, again, a push notification from the Washington Post. Biden, by the way, yes, I subscribe to the Washington Post. That's how dedicated I am to our audience. Biden.
and so if I need anything, I just ask Eric to look it up for me.
Exactly. New York Times, the same thing. Biden tried to temper Israel's impulses to keep a lid on the Gaza war, but at every turn, he's been foiled. By the way, foiled. What is this? Some kind of vampire movie from the 40s? Curses, foiled again. Israel doesn't need Biden to be their permission structure.
Oh, did you wait all day for that one?
No, it just hit me because I was thinking,
okay.
The whole thing of, they need to be bowing and asking for the blessing of the U.S. Look, I know how it works with your strongest ally, but right now they are in the fight of their life, and I do believe that the enemy believes, Hezbollah believes, Iran believes, Hamas believes that this is the time. This is why this is why Hamas did what they did on October 7th, because they knew that they could strike during a weak presidency in the United States and get away with it.
Remember, that's how we began the week.
Yeah.
We began the week with permission structure.
Yes.
Permission structure, is that what it is? Was it called permission structure?
Permission structure.
Yeah, okay. And that was for Walls.
Yeah, for Walls.
Because
they can't say role model anymore on the left. They had to come up with a new phrase for it.
He's the permission structure to be an effeminate male.
Yeah, exactly. No, thanks.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So it was another day where I look at it and say, okay, the Harris campaign still on the defensive.
Yeah.
Another one. You saw the CNN projection now that Trump has a 70% chance of winning.
Right.
And the polls are coming out, and it's not looking good. And this is where right now, the last week is where back in 2016 with Hillary, where they saw the movement starting to happen.
Yep. We had said about 6 weeks out of that election day, we said, keep an eye on Pennsylvania. I have a friend who's a Democrat, and he was a volunteer, and, he was doing his duty in that state. And I was getting some feedback from him, and he sounded tired. And he didn't sound quite defeated at that point, 6 weeks out. But you and I knew something was going on. And if something was going on in Pennsylvania, then you look at the Great Lakes states and say, all right, what's going on there? And it's exactly what we're watching now. It used to be the one they watched was Ohio. But now it's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. And I think with the polls that you see out of Arizona, it looks like, according to those polls, it looks like Trump is going to win Arizona. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Kari Lake's going to win that Senate seat. Gallegos has just run a better campaign. We can get into the weeds on that, but it's I don't think she's going to win. You look at the polls, and if those polls are consistent where Trump is leading and quite often outside the margin of error in Arizona, and that she's not getting close to Gallegos, and he's leading again in most cases far outside the margin of error, then you see what's going on. We look for the movement in the polls, the consistency in a poll, and the consistent movement. The movement has been, though, in these swing states, in these battleground states, further for Trump since about mid-September. It really goes back to, I think, the fall off, I won't say fall out, but fall off from the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I think after that, there was no momentum because we asked the question, all right, what's next? What is it that the Kamala Harris campaign could do to really get any momentum? There is no momentum right now with her campaign. And here's another tell. Here's where I think the liberal activist media knows what's going on. You're seeing them angry. At this point in 2016 with Hillary, they were still celebrating. Some of them were celebrating, in fact, at 7 p.m. still on election night. And that changed. Remember how the tone changed within an hour or two, and then they started getting angry because it looked like more and more as the results were coming in that she wasn't going to win. Well, there's no celebration because if they thought she was winning, if they thought she had momentum, Kamala Harris, the liberal activist media would be celebrating that, not celebrating her, but celebrating the victory over Trump, celebrating a Democrat winning, and they would be in a much different mindset. What you hear them, where they are right now, is angry. You see the Sunday morning news activists that are Welker and Stephanopoulos. You've seen them go after Republicans when a Republican's on. You can tell how angry and bitter they are right now. And I think part of that is directed at a Harris campaign that's not doing anything. And James Carville actually yesterday was out there saying, you got to move. You got to get off your blank and move. You got to do something.
And, we look at, and by the way, I can understand people say, well, yeah, but I've seen the polls that show that Harris is up. When you look at the polls that were most accurate in 2020, look, I don't know who's going to win.
Right.
I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, I still have great doubts that if Trump wins Arizona, let's say Trump wins Arizona by 3 or 4 points. I don't know if Kerry Lake still loses.
It would be hard to
it would
believe that
right.
he doesn't carry the down ballot
right.
very strongly if he wins by 3 or 4 points.
The reference points that we're using, that I know that I'm using and you're using, is the fact that the most accurate polls, if you look at the Insider Advantage, if you look at Atlas Intel, if you look at Trafalgar is Insider Advantage, I believe, or one of them is. And then you look at Rasmussen. If you look at the top 4 out of 5 polls from 2020, they all show Trump winning. You've got a lot of other polls out there, which, again, I saw, what is it, Robert, what's his name from Trafalgar? Robert Cahaley, is it? Is that his name? He came out, and so has Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen.
Yeah.
And they've come out and just said, these polls are wrong. I've never seen that before.
Mitchell has been very strong on this and consistent on this, saying, look, we're doing our dailies, and you know, we're not pro this or pro that. We're trying to show an accurate picture every day. And he does, in fact, a YouTube video that comes out once a week that he puts out there for Rasmussen Reports. And it's very interesting data when he crunches it. Might be boring to some people, but I find it very interesting in what you look at in terms of the trends. And yeah, I think my point with the activist media is there's no indication that they believe polls that show her winning. I don't know who's going to win, but I look at the tells of where we are, where the consistent movement has been. The consistent movement since mid-September over the past 2 to 3 weeks has been for Trump. And we're now at October 4th. And we're 4 weeks out next Tuesday from Election Day itself. And within a matter of days, you're going to have early voting in full swing in many states. So I don't know. But I have a hard time believing, with the sentiment we're hearing from union members, this is the blue-collar crowd. These are the working-class individuals. Kamala Harris can say, I was born in a middle-class family, into a middle-class family, all she wants to. But you hear the sentiment coming out of the union membership right now, they're not buying it. Most people aren't. They know what she stands for. And it's never been the middle class.
Well, you know, looking at Mark Mitchell yesterday doing the Rasmussen reports, and you and I follow the daily, the actual dailies, and we brought it to our great listeners out there just to show you how polls can change drastically. As you see, a lot of polls are like over a 3 or 4 day period, which they believe makes them more accurate because you take out the highs, basically the highs and the lows, you know, are in there, or what you would call the outliers. And if you look at it at times, I mean, you've seen, you know, if you look at daily, Trump up by 5, Trump up by 2, and all of a sudden there'll be a tie one day, and then the next day Trump up by 3, and then the next day Kamala Harris up by 5. And then you'll have the next few days Trump up by 2, Trump up by 3, Trump up by 4, whatever. And so you look at it and you see the averages and how polls can change, you know, day by day. But if you look at Rasmussen, okay, this is you go all the way back. You know, they're going. Let me just see. This is February. Trump plus 3. July 22nd to July 24th, Trump plus 7. Trump plus 5, the end of July. Trump plus 5, beginning of August. Trump plus 4, Trump plus 3, Trump plus 2, going into August. Trump plus 1, Trump plus 2, Trump plus 2, Trump plus 2, Trump plus 2. And all the last 3, which is taken between September 12th and the 2nd, every one Trump plus 2. Every single one. They go, and their point is there is no movement, which is really bad for Harris, because you sit there and say, well, yeah, but that's in the margin of error. You know, Trump plus 2 and margin of error is 2. And each and every one of those polls is exactly margin of error, 2 points. Well, if it's off completely, and if it's off 2 points, Trump still wins.
Yeah.
And that's the point they're trying to make. And they said the polls are not moving towards her favor, is the point that he was trying to make, because they're polling every single day. They're the one poll that does it.
Yeah, right. Well, and, it's interesting. RCP does the 2024 versus 2020 spread between, in the top battleground states, between Trump and in 2020 it was Biden versus 2024. And it is a swing now in the top battleground states. Now, to be clear, we don't like lumping any group of states, whether it's all the states on a national poll or the battleground states as a group, because you have to get into the individual states to find out what's going on. But it is interesting that it's a 4.1 point swing in Trump's favor over 2020 when you look at that group. That does tell you that the sentiment certainly has shifted over 2020, which we know it has. We've been covering this whole thing and have been here every day for it. But one of the things about the inaccuracy is that clearly some of these pollsters actually don't care. With Mitchell at Rasmussen talking about it, saying, look, we question their methodology. If they're political activists, they don't care about the accuracy. If they were off by some of them off by several points in 2020, you would think there would be a regrouping and a total revamping of their entire process and methodology. I haven't heard any of that. I know a couple of those pollsters actually have in recent years. But you would think we're trying to get to the point of being accurate. Well, not if you're an activist. You're trying to paint a picture. And if you're trying to paint a picture to motivate people to vote, you paint one where it's neck and neck. Because if you go too big on it, then people become overconfident and think, I don't have to go vote for her because she's going to win anyway. She's got my support, but I'm not as motivated. But if it's neck and neck, if you show that it's neck and neck over and over again, then they feel more motivated because it might be their vote. They're going to be the hero that gets her over the top. And that's, again, that's a theory. Again, assuming it does apply if these are activists in these pollster organizations. And I have to believe some of them are. I don't see how you agree. If you're not striving for accuracy, then your mission is something totally different. It's political. Period. No way around that. When they talk about money pouring into these pollsters, and Mitchell's been on that too over at Rasmussen, well, I want to put money, if I were going to be sponsoring a pollster, I would want accuracy. My credibility is on the line if I'm pouring a bunch of money into it. But then again, if I'm an activist pouring money into it, that doesn't matter either. So I don't trust anything right now on the polls completely, and we never have. But right now, I trust it less and less.
Well, but you look at the movement too, and you compare it to 2020 and 2016,
right?
And it does look favorable, for Trump at this moment. And it was, again, this is the time in 2016 where you saw the movement.
And those and there are other indicators when you pair them with the movement in these polls that justify the movement in those polls. And that's what we see. When you're talking about the Teamsters, that was a big deal.
When you talk about union workers and you say, okay, but is that indicative of that huge swing from 2020? When you look at Hispanics and the huge swing, when you look at blacks and the swing there, if these all hold up, then where is the increase? As we've asked the question, where is this increase for Kamala?
Right.
Where's it coming from? 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, some real great, interesting audio cuts. The one, Mark Cuban attempting to defend and say, Kamala Harris has, legitimately flip-flopped on the border. It's just like, stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost, you cringe. It's almost embarrassing.
It really is.
How
It
he's
just
attempting
reeks of desperation.
I know. We'll get to that and more coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Made it to a Friday. Woohoo! All right. All right, you ready for this?
Okay, what do you got?
This is, I guess, David Sachs, the entrepreneur, his podcast with Mark Cuban.
Right.
And they're talking about Kamala's flip-flop on immigration. And it just shows you, I mean, it's just, I cringe. I feel a little bit embarrassed for Mark Cuban for the argument that he's trying to make here.
Yeah.
But
right.
here it is. Here's part of it. Just
okay.
So your claim is that Kamala Harris really wanted to seal the border, but she was prevented.
No,
from
that's not
doing
what I
so
said at
by
all.
Joe Biden.
You
didn't
say that. David, you're really good at trying to position things so you have talking points to go out with.
You said that this is a case of a VP who was thwarted by her boss from doing what she wanted to do.
No, that is not what I said. That is not
so you admit that she was on board. You are the king of virtue
signaling, David.
No, that's not virtue signaling.
For virtue signaling.
So the truth is she was on board with Joe Biden's agenda.
I don't know. She's doing what she was fucking told to do.
Which one is it?
You're creating false choices, David. You're
creating
the one
false choices.
It. So, David, if you do the job your boss told you to do, do you make a declaration before you do it if I agree or disagree?
Then how do you know she disagreed with Joe Biden about these policies?
Because I see what she's doing now.
Well, because she changed the policy, right? She has a different policy.
It's an election year conversion. She realizes what a disaster it's been.
So when Trump does it, it's brilliant.
Let me give you the proof. Okay, her own words. Okay,
so she flipped her position.
She called Trump's border wall un-American and medieval. Yep. And mocked it, and this is before she became Biden's vice president.
Around the same
so when
time,
when she was in the Senate and Trump was trying to build the wall, remember Democrats tried to thwart that. They subjected him to years of litigation to prevent him from building that wall. And she, multiple times, was on record saying the wall was un-American, medieval, mocked, and so forth. She also compared ICE to the KKK. She said that images of Border Patrol agents evoked slavery. Okay, this is her rhetoric. I don't think Joe Biden made her say that. She suggested that we abolish ICE and start from scratch, okay? And now she wants to talk about how tough she is on the border. It's ridiculous.
Maybe she talked to J.D. Vance back then and was taking his positions. People change their mind for whatever reason. People learn. You're positioning as...
Okay, so hold on. So throughout her whole time in the Senate, she was arguing against a border wall, okay, in the strongest possible language. She then becomes border czar, or you could call it point person, for the Biden administration. And for 3 years, they gaslit us that the border was not a problem, that it was not an open, festering wound, like the videos were constantly coming out. I remember on the show we talked about it, and I was told when I raised the issue of the border that was a conspiracy theory, that Fox News was just cherry-picking videos. Remember that, Jason? In any event...
Yeah, well, people were it was interesting to bring that up, because people were sharing videos and playing them on Fox that were from like 10 years ago. So there was a lot of misinformation.
The Democrats, the whole Democratic Party...
thing about caravans, David, all those caravans never made it to the border. How many caravans did we hear about?
Something like over 10 million migrants have entered the country during the Biden-Harris administration. The first thing they did... Hold on a second.
First of all, we don't know.
When Biden No,
First
we
of all,
know
we
about
don't know.
no, we do know. Those 10 million are just the border encounters. Those are the recorded crossings that they let into the country. The number we don't know is how many more were not recorded.
Encounters
that
are
number
not
could
just,
be 20 or 30 million.
Well, you can look up on
what
encounters.
happened? Why did this happen? I'll tell you why. When Joe Biden took office, he repealed all of Trump's executive orders.
No, he did not. What is it? Section
90
42?
Of them. 90 of them.
Title 42.
Title 42
And the most
stuck
important
around
one-
until the end of 23.
And in addition, they got rid of Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and they changed the meaning of asylum so that anyone who went to the border and said that they were suffering economic hardship, which is basically the whole world, okay, could now qualify for asylum. And they were given like a ticket to appear in court one day, like 3 years, 5 years, and they were ushered into the country. And then there were like nonprofits working with the Biden administration to put them on buses.
David, I agreed that they screwed up
all
on
over the country.
I agreed they screwed up on the border. I'm not
This is
arguing
more
with
than
you
a
on that.
screw up.
No, fine, they screwed up. But now we are back
But Kamala
where
Harris
Trump was.
defended it.
So yeah, but she changed, just like like JD
Okay.
Vance. JD Vance called him Hitler. JD Vance in 2020 and after diminished Donald Trump.
No,
and criticized.
that was in private communications in 2016. And JD Vance explained, including last night, why he changed his mind about that.
Right, and that's fine. So he talked to people. So did she.
No. That's where Cuban's wrong, because we can stop there. There's where Cuban. J.D. Vance has explained why he changed his opinion on Trump.
It's the only. That's the measure.
Right.
That's the standard we hold.
Right.
If you change your position, I want to hear where you had the change of heart.
Right. She's never said where she's had the change of heart. Nope. She's never explained why.
It's not that, people can change their mind. No. She's saying, I've been consistent. My values haven't changed.
Well, again, it was, as he said before, the lies that weren't true. Same thing with Michael Rappaport. That's what J.D. Vance has said. It's the lies that he was believing. And he said, I was wrong for believing the lies about Trump, and he went through the lies.
Right.
She's never explained why she has changed anything. And Cuban saying, well, for whatever reason. No. It's not for whatever reason. It's
That's
is
the
the reason.
yada, yada right there.
Yeah.
Well, but yada, 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 she changed.
Yeah.
No.
Because everyone knows she hasn't changed.
Right.
Everyone knows she's lying, and so does Mark Cuban.
Yep.
Otherwise, Mark Cuban is the biggest fool ever on the planet, and I know he isn't.
Well, and then he finally caves. Well, yeah, they screwed up on the border. Come on, they screwed up. In other words, come on, isn't all forgiven?
Just amazing.
No, it's not.
So it's pretty cringeworthy.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why. I know Mark's a liberal. Why are you dying on the Kamala Harris hill?
Yeah, no.
What is it? I get that you don't want Trump to be president again. I get that too. But you can't make a case here. You haven't been able to. But there's something different going on with Cuban right now. I don't know.
It's really weird.
It is. I don't believe he's a stupid guy, but I believe he's desperate right now because he's clearly demonstrating that over and over again in his debates that he's having with anybody.
It's just cringeworthy.
Yeah.
I find it very entertaining, though. I would say this, though.
Yeah. I don't. Here's the problem. She's not saying any of these things. What is she saying?
Yeah.
My values haven't changed.
Well, wow. Cuban is mansplaining because Kamala can't.
Well,
why is Cuban mansplaining?
He is the permission structure for going out as a surrogate. White dudes for Kamala. You know, that whole thing. Wow. Yeah, Mark, why are you mansplaining where she can't? Because you can't. She's not making this case.
No.
My values haven't changed.
Yeah.
In the interview that she did with the local television station on fracking. It's been misrepresented to build fear of my campaign.
Oh, yeah.
No.
You said it.
You said it. And don't say, no, I said Biden would never ban fracking, because now what you're saying is then you have to go back and say, well, that's me. Biden is me. And you have to attach yourself at the hip to Joe Biden. And we also know that's critical to your campaign, that you not do that. Man, painting yourself into a corner really sounds exhausting. Doesn't it?
Yes. I would find it exhausting to be mansplaining for a woman who can't splain.
Just come out and say, I'm voting for her because I hate Trump.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Yeah.
No, I hate Trump.
Right.
I'll do anything to vote against Trump. Full stop. Yeah, but the border, blah, 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 blah. I hate Trump.
Yeah.
Just say it. Just own it. I hate one guy. I'm willing to use my considerable influence because I hate one guy. Liz Cheney's doing it. Come on, Mark.
Liz Cheney isn't trying to flip-flop and say, I've changed all my opinions, even though we know she did. You know, we know she hates Trump.
Yeah.
And she hates Trump so much that she hates other Republicans, which is why she's now pro-open border by supporting Allred in the state of Texas.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. This isn't about Trump.
No.
It's about she's always been a liberal and can't admit it.
She knows where she stands. She's full-on liberal. I think this is Trump was her permission structure to come out as a full-on liberal. The whole Rick-rolling thing with Rick Astley. I wonder if anybody's going to Trump roll. Liz Cheney. It is so interesting to watch this desperation. It's sad at times because you just wonder, where do you have to be mentally for that to bring that out in you? Well, you really have to have true and great disdain, hatred for the one person. You do. And there are people that do. He was a celebrity. Everybody adored him until he ran for president. Did I almost go full-on Keith Morrison? Until he decided to run for president. That changed everything. And that's where we are. Remember, Bush wasn't Bill Maher. We called Bush Hitler. We called Romney Hitler. This guy really is Hitler. Really, Bill? Really? It is desperation. And I can't imagine being in that place. Again, it sounds exhausting painting yourself into a corner over and over again, but it also sounds exhausting having to defend something that is so obvious. Where you say, and I understand, I know, I can compartmentalize the number of Trump haters and the fact that there are a significant number of Trump haters out there.
Yeah, but at least you're being honest when you say I hate Trump.
If you say I don't care, I don't care. I hope that Congress will keep her in check or whatever. You don't even have to go there. It's all you got to do is say, yeah, but I hate Trump. Yeah, but I hate Trump. Yep, but I'm going to vote against Trump. I hate Trump. I'm going to vote against Trump. Just own it.
But when you start defending the 180 degrees that she has taken on all the major issues that are Trump issues, and everyone knows, Mark Cuban knows she's lying.
Well,
he's not. Mark Cuban's not dumb. He knows she's lying.
That's why he's trying to defend her, and she's just saying, I haven't changed my values. My values haven't changed. And he's going, oh, no, she changed. She changed. Well, which is it?
So Mark Cuban, believe me, Mark Cuban's not dumb. She knows she's lying, which means he's lying to you.
Yep. Just say you hate Trump.
Yeah.
And move on. Why do you want to throw all your own credibility, if you had any, just completely under the bus with her?
It is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it is.
866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Well, I can't believe we're already into October. But still, as you said yesterday, it seems like it's taken us so long to get here, and still we know there's not a lot of time before the election, but it seems like there's a lot of time before the election.
Well, it's weird. It's like being on, you ever go for a walk, or for you, like a bike ride or something, you're out on a trail and you come over a hill and you see, oh, there's the neighborhood in the distance, right? And it's like, it looks pretty close. It's only about 30 minutes away, but it looks a lot closer. And then all of a sudden, the closer you get, the further away it looks. It's kind of that effect with Election Day. We've gone through so much. What a crazy, absolutely crazy, bat soup crazy election cycle. It has been insane. I kind of don't want it to be over for my own entertainment purposes.
Oh, don't worry. It's not going anywhere.
Well, here's the thing.
If Trump wins, they're going to get even crazier.
Oh, thank you. Because this hit me, I think yesterday. It didn't hit me, but I was really kind of focused on this thought. Win or don't win, the lawfare and everything else at Trump is going to keep going on. If he wins, it's a victory for this nation in hopes that we can get some things done to fix what is broken. But don't think for a moment everyone is going to stand down. That the Letitia James or the any of the Jack Smiths of the world are just going to go away. We're actually likely to see more of them. Because in their mind, they are the heroes. They think they're heroes. They really believe they're onto something. And you see it from, this is kind of the thing with Jack Smith. He's doing this with refiling all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but I know what the Supreme Court said, but. And they don't have any respect for the Supreme Court. So a decision that's handed down by the highest court just makes them try again. That's it. So if he wins November 5th, it's going to be ramped up, I think, 100-fold. I think we're going to see it is going to be off the charts crazy. And then after January 20th, and Biden's no longer around. If she loses, Biden will be nonstop. This is the thing you'll hear him say. He'll say, and here's the deal. And by the way, I would have won. I would have won. I would have won. I would have won. I could have beat him. I beat him once. I would have beat him again. You're going to hear that nonstop out of Joe. Wow. It is insane right now.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Here is Trump talking yesterday in Michigan about energy.
With the lowest energy prices on earth, we will attract energy-hungry industries from all over the planet and millions of blue-collar jobs. And the reason we can do that is because, again, we have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else. Otherwise, nobody else could do this but us. We're in position to do it. Instead, we're going all electric, and we don't have that. Although we do have some, and it's usually controlled by the environmentalists. We're going to uncontrol it pretty quick. It's called rare earth. We have some great rare earth science areas, but we're not allowed to touch it. Because if we touch it, the world will come to an end, they say. If we dig a little bit like China does and like other countries, we have some great rare earth. You know what rare earth is to make different things, including chips and batteries and things. We have some incredible sites, but they're all taken totally off the market because some guy sitting there with very thick glasses looks at it and says, that's an environmental site. And now we can't develop trillions of dollars worth of value, so we're going to be unfreezing a lot of stuff that's been sitting there for millions of years.
I love when he does that inflection. Millions of years.
Everybody knows. Thick glasses. That's funny. Some guy with thick glasses. But it's, he makes a solid point that, and something that we've talked about over the years, and what we have available to us. It was interesting one day, and this is on the very liberal CNBC, and you had this international energy expert that had a huge global map up on the board, and he was walking around, and he was circling all the places in the world where they go after what's in the ground, where they go after what's, and then he drew this big red circle around the U.S. with a question mark in the middle. And said, the world looks at us and says, why in the world do you do this? We've talked about it over and over and over again. The left has been trying to fear-monger people into submission on solar and wind, and we're taking and then taking taxpayer money and pouring it down the toilet with backing those companies that go out of business over and over again. When we have something in the ground, and now we know with modern exploration and processes that have been put into place over the last 10 to 15 years, that we are the king when it comes to oil and natural gas. And we have to stop this insanity because at the base of it, and I'm glad that the Trump campaign is doing this. J.D. Vance was talking about it too. On the debate stage, he made a point. And it really does start and end with low cost and plentiful energy. Everybody is attracted to that. We'd like to thank the Trump campaign for listening to Red Eye Radio. But we've been saying it for years that whatever you're talking about, any kind of manufacturing or any kind of business that wants to come here and set up shop long term, they want to know that we have cheap and plentiful energy. There is the manpower issue. I believe there are remedies for that, but none of that happens without having a long-term plan, which is going to require Congress to get involved. This is part of the work that has to be done in the very short time, if Trump wins, the very short time he'll have to get it done. And it has to be more than administrative. It's going to have to be creating new laws that say this is going to be our goal as a nation. If all the other types of energy come around and the private sector gets it right at some point, we'll know it because we'll all be standing in line to get it. And this is where we are. We got to stop ignoring the reality. You're paying too much for everything as a result of these types of mindless policies put into place, the spending, and then the shutting down of the expansion of wealth. Those two combined bring on inflation and reduce buying power for every American family. Those two things are at the basis of the reason that you and your family are underwater, if that is the case with you.
I hope that the Republican Party gets into the specifics about, he didn't specifically there, but that the Republican Party gets into the specifics about what's going on with the grid and the insanity that, in fact, you just had, I think it was on one of the Supreme Court issues, you had the grid operators. I got to find the story. I don't know if we did it. We might have done it last week.
I think we touched on it.
We touch
I don't know. I don't know that we went into it in detail, but I think we did touch on it.
And it's where the grid operators, in arguing with the Supreme Court about climate change stuff, said, you're not going to be able to produce electricity for the people.
Right.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so because they're trying to run it on solar and wind, and they're shutting down coal plants, they're shutting down nuclear plants, even though you've seen a reversal.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen what, 2 different ones? 3 Mile Island, are they going to start up again, I heard?
I think there was talk about that. I don't know how far in the process they are with that one.
And I thought there was one in Michigan, too.
Yeah, it could be.
But it's, we've talked about that insanity.
Yeah.
We've talked about the fact that you cannot continue to do that. There it is. Constellation Energy eyes taxpayer funds to open 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
They're looking for a $1.6 billion federal loan. Well, the fact is, when you look at what we have poured into, alternative energy that's throwing it down the toilet. Nuclear, you're not throwing it down the toilet. That's going to work.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be able to produce.
Right. Yep.
It'd be interesting to see why, because you look at that, you could look at a business model of something like a nuclear plant and say, that's going to work. We're going to be able to sell this.
Yeah.
So what's the lack of private investment? Is the lack of private investment the belief that not that they can't make money, but if they start it up now, it will be shut down in 5 years and they won't be able to recoup what they want if Democrats get into power again?
I think there's that, which is in part supported by the NIMBY effect. For those that want to shut it down, they basically latch on to that NIMBY effect, not in my backyard, for those under the age of 50. That's what it was. The NIMBY effect is not in my backyard. Yeah, we support it in general, but we really don't want it set up in our backyard. But if you look at modern nuclear energy, there's very little reason to be concerned any more than you would be about any energy exploration or creation. And this is I'm sure has to be a great concern for any would-be investors, because you also have to be concerned about the cost for, and it really is, a lot of it is attached to the regulatory cost of upgrading the grid. And I think it can be done. I have great confidence in it. The problem is the process itself, with the red tape, with regulatory issues, makes it extremely costly, and I think the private sector is still skittish on it. You have to build a real consensus before the private sector is going to dive in on that one.
It's the Palisades nuclear plant in Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
Has closed a $1.5 billion loan to restart operations.
Yeah.
With the Energy Department, though.
Right. Yeah.
So because you look at this and you say, well, wait a minute. I can look at, if you're a private investor and say, okay, we're going to need nuclear power, that's going to be consistent. This thing will, this plant will last, 100 years.
Right.
Much safer than it was before. The safeguards that are in for nuclear power is different than even it was 40 years ago. And so you look at it and you say, okay, we're the private investors.
Right.
Is it because the private investors believe that if Democrats get in power, they will attempt? I mean, they're in power now and they're desperate. Yeah. But will they shut it down? Can we be assured that the long-term capital investment will be worth it?
Right.
Because why else couldn't you get it?
No, those are all great questions. Right. I really do believe that you're onto a strong theory, and that is, if you believe it's going to be shut down, if you believe that the process in getting it there, the red tape in getting it there, is going to be too costly, you believe your ROI isn't going to be there. If they're having to go through the DOE on this loan, where is the private sector on it?
Because when you look at investments out there, if you can produce consistent electricity with the increase in electricity that we're using in this nation, so you're not going to go bankrupt, right?
No, I mean, long term, you would think it would be a no-brainer outside of, again, the hurdles being the regulatory thing and the NIMBY thing, which are kind of hand in hand.
Right.
And that's it. If I'm going to throw money at this, is the money going to be spent in building consensus or getting a return? That's what I would question. If I were putting my money into it, I would want to know.
And the American public also has to look at what Trump was saying. We all want our cell phones. The Democrats want electric vehicles.
Right, yeah.
We need a lot of these rare earth minerals that China has a market on, and we refuse to go after our own. Just forget about even capitalism.
Right.
Having a competitive marketplace that you could have the United States and the world, including China. You're talking about national security.
Right, yeah.
And so you look at that and, I'm going to talk about this. I want to just bring this up on the top of the hour because I think it's amazing. A couple of things this week that happened. I mean, there's Trump talking about that, talking about nuclear power, talking about rare earth, materials that we need. And you really think about it because it's baffled us this week, the obsession. Think about it, because you're talking about the Republicans talking about how we get rid of inflation. What are we going to do about energy? What about the border? Here's what we're going to do here. The things that are important to the American public. And you and I talked about it this week because it just didn't start now. It started at the beginning. The obsession with the leftist media that comes from Democrats, comes from liberal Democrats to promote, with Walz and also Kamala Harris's husband, that they're a different type they promote a different type of masculinity.
Right.
Who the hell even goes? Nobody gives a damn about that crap.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Well, I mean, you think about it, what a mess that campaign is.
Well, it seems like they're just it's like being at a weird party. And they're doing all of these different things. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, is this a birthday party? Is this what are we celebrating here? What are we trying to do here? What is your goal? Who are you trying to convince on the whole thing with him and his image? Why not just put him out there? Just put him out there. Yeah. Carville was just.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh man, he was on it. You asked the other day, where's he been?
I know.
Well, apparently pent up a little bit,
seething.
And he couldn't hold it in any longer. And then we'll talk about that coming up. But
I read about it.
Frustration.
Did you listen to it? Is there a lot
I didn't see.
Oh, okay.
I did not hear the audio.
I got to see if I can find the audio. I got to be careful though, because when he gets really ticked off, he gets into cursing hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One of the things, and we'll talk about this coming up following the top of the hour, actually, Axios had the story that multiple Democratic sources telling Axios that their internal polling, they're very worried about.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, that Senator Tammy Baldwin is only up 2 points. And Trafalgar has Wisconsin for Trump by 2. And it says multiple Democratic sources told Axios there are alarm bells ringing in the state, arguing the race is much tighter than what public polling has been showing.
Okay. All right.
Which means, somebody needs to do an investigation. It would be interesting to see, to find out the internal polling, because we saw it in the Hillary campaign. Yeah. Everybody knew it.
Right.
Both in campaigns, both of them knew it. 3 weeks out, you really didn't see the movement, though, in the public polls as much.
Well, you didn't, and I would love to see the disparity between those two types of polls. Look, we're hearing, and we don't have access to it, we're hearing that the internal polls show that Trump is gaining ground and doing very well. I guess we'll see.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. How is everybody doing?
How you doing?
All right.
How you doing?
Right.
How you doing?
Not bad.
All right.
I can't complain.
Yeah,
Nobody would care anyway, so what does it matter?
I get paid to complain.
So that's the one thing that, it really got highlighted this week with the vice presidential debate, and then Jen Psaki earlier in the week interviewing Emhoff and talking about, again, just being obsessed with the new type of masculinity that he brings. And you and I, played the audio earlier, this week and just went, what in the hell?
Yeah.
It just shows you, though, I've got an article that relates to this coming up with Hispanic voters, and Roy Teixeira, who is a long-term Democrat, writes, has the website The Liberal Patriot, where he's one of the ones that said for Biden a couple of months ago, he's got to be more MAGA. Yeah. And now that Harris is more MAGA, she can't sell it. Right. And that was the thing we said. Well, he goes, well, Roy believes that Biden could sell that he's MAGA and he can't do it. That's the problem.
Right.
But when you look at what we saw this week, because it's bizarre for normal people. I'm sorry, because the weird normal thing was started by Democrats.
Yeah.
But the normal person doesn't sit there and judge and wonder and ponder and suffer over trying to figure out what type of masculinity any certain male is.
Yeah.
Because as you and I said, they never explained what the hell that means. the new kind of male. We did get some hints because Emhoff was saying, oh, yes, I care about women. I care about women. And I was like, okay, they're going to come out and say, well, Republicans really don't care about women at all, that, Republican men marry subservient conservative women.
Right.
I heard the laugh, conservative women.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's not true.
And by the way, tame your laughter, would you?
was that a form of mansplaining for you?
Yeah, and I'm going to pay for it later.
But it's when you think about just how bizarre it is, with everything, with all the problems that you have, and here the Democrats from the very beginning, it was like, we need to portray that Walz is a macho testosterone man with the camouflage and the hunter's hat and the gun and holding the gun. I thought, for example, I'm like, is this like Boebert's Christmas postcard from a couple of years ago? Is that going to come out next? From Walz, and it was just the effort, the time and effort that they're spending, because it was Walz, and then last 10 days it's been Emhoff.
Yeah,
and he brings a new type of masculinity in here, not the typical testosterone masculinity. But for Walz, they started out by saying Republicans are scared. They don't know what to do with a masculine, testosterone-laden male.
Yeah.
That's a Democrat. And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? We could care less. If Arnold Schwarzenegger came out and had liberal ideas, we'd say, well, you're wrong.
Yeah, listen to me. Here, everyone calm down, because I do have liberal ideas all the time. I'm talking about don't go in there. There's a bomb in there. Listen to me. Everyone get in line right now, and you're going to vote for Kamala.
Right. We could care less. But it's their obsession with identity and stuff that they can't even explain. They can't even explain how are you judging a male as being masculine versus not being masculine? What's your judgment on that? They can't explain it. You think about it, they can't explain anything.
Why do they sound so weird when they talk?
But, I mean, it's this obsession with identity politics that gets to the complete and total bizarre. And you think about it, Jen Psaki worked for Biden.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely obsessed.
Yeah.
With how do we define men as masculine? But I just loved it when the Democrats and the Harris campaign early on, Republicans are afraid of a Democrat in camouflage carrying a gun with a hunter's hat. Are you out of your freaking minds? But with all the things in this election where reality is hit on inflation, the border, the world in chaos, the Middle East in chaos, and they're obsessed in late September, early October about who are they promoting to, who are they trying to convince, what independent out there is going, well, doggone it, you know something? It's about time that the Democrats redefine masculinity. Forget about inflation. I'm going to vote for the new redefined definition of a masculine male.
I'm waiting for
it's nuts.
I'm waiting for the ad that's almost like one of those weird, creepy perfume ads of back in the day, where there's this weird swanky music that goes on. You see Tim Walz come out, he's jumping around with both hands, but they show it in slow motion because it fits the swanky music. And then the end, Walz, the permission structure you've been waiting for.
Well, that's the other part, too. The permission structure to be this kind of male. What kind of male?
We're not looking for that. I mean, it really is bizarre. It is just bizarre how everything seems to be flailing like the hands of Tim Walz, quite frankly.
And by the way, the permission structure came from a Harris campaign person.
Yes.
About, this is on Emhoff, that, he's basically or was it Walz?
I thought it was Walz.
Maybe it was Walz. The permission structure
to
be a different kind of male. Yeah, we men are walking around saying, I got to be a different kind of male.
Because they can't use the words role model. So they painted themselves into the corner. Oh, man, we can't use role model. So what do we say? Permission structure. Some drunk guy in the back of the room. Yeah, okay, permission structure. We'll go with that. That's as good as anything we could come up with.
By the way, I just in my mind, when you said it the way you said it, I went, Brian Reagan.
Yeah.
I can see him doing,
yeah.
So now they're talking about a permission structure and trying to redefine what a male is.
Say eight. That's from I Walked on the Moon, Brian Reagan greatness. It's clear when you don't have, when there's nothing there, when it's only a facade. Everybody who has surrounded it, the surrogates, and there's not a lot of them. But it's the usual suspects. They have to, and I don't mean actual suspects. Some of them may be. I'm not. What am I? A cop? When they have nothing from the actual candidate, they have to make it up themselves. We played the Mark Cuban stuff and have before. This is what they have to do. When they can't go on the issues and they're lying about where they are in the issues, everything else is just also make it up as you go along.
And it brings us here to the Roy Teixeira column. Now, he's a Democrat, but believes that where the Democrats are going is the wrong way. The Democrats' Hispanic voter problem deepens. Democrats are steadily losing ground with Hispanic voters. The seriousness of this problem tends to be underestimated in Democrat circles for several reasons. They don't realize how big the shift is. They don't realize how thoroughly it undermines the most influential Democratic theory of the case for building their coalition, which is identity politics. Groups must think a certain way, and groups will always think a certain way, and that's what they were thinking. Remember in 2016? Mm-hmm. Remember, that's the summer of 2016. Mm-hmm. You and I don't live in the bubble of today. We remember this very well. Remember that article's being written? The Republicans may never win a presidential election again because of the demographic shift of Hispanics.
Right.
And the Democrats saying Hispanics all think alike and will always vote alike, and that's why we have them, because all demographics will practice their own identity politics. That's where the flaw is.
Right.
That people won't ever think as individuals, that you can keep saying we take this group for granted because, hey, we've convinced them that because they're a certain ethnicity, certain whatever, that they all have to vote the same. Well, that's not happening.
Right.
As he writes, they don't realize how thoroughly it undermines the most influential Democratic theory of the case for building a coalition. And number three, they believe that any Hispanic flirtation with the GOP is merely temporary and they will come back home to the Democrats. On the second point, consider that most Democrats like to believe that since a relatively conservative white population is in sharp decline, by the way, isn't this a replacement theory, by the way, that he's promoting that the Democrats go crazy about and say that it's racist? On the second point, consider that most Democrats like to believe that since a relatively conservative white population is in sharp decline, why a presumably liberal non-white population keeps growing, the course of social and demographic change should deliver an ever-growing Democrat coalition. It is simply a matter of getting the non-white population to the polls. But consider further that, as the census documents, the biggest single driver of the increased non-white population is the growth of the Hispanic population. They are by far the largest group within the census-designated non-white population, 19%, 12% for blacks. While their representation among voters considerably lags their representation in the overall population, it is fair to say that voting trends among this group will decisively shape voting trends among non-whites in the future, since their share of voters will continue to increase while black voter share is expected to remain roughly constant. It therefore follows, if Hispanic voting trends continue to move steadily against the Democrats, the pro-democratic effect of non-white population growth will be blunted, if not canceled out entirely, and that very influential Democratic theory of the case falls apart that could or should provoke quite a sea change in Democratic thinking.
Well, you look at the civics poll, and you and I have problems with the civics poll. It's a daily approval poll on the current president. So this is not on Kamala Harris, but it is on Biden. And you look at where they are, and the president's been underwater for quite some time, but you look with Hispanic voters nationwide, and he's underwater. In fact, going back to where it began in January of 2020, and it's a daily poll, and it shows you at certain points what happened. And also keep in mind, it's not Kamala Harris, it is Biden, but I think the two go hand in hand as she's part of the administration, no doubt. There's a 30-point swing in the sentiment in terms of where Hispanic voters are on Biden. They started out in January of 2020 with 56% approve, 35% disapprove, and right now it stands at 51% disapprove, 40% approve. That, again, is a 30-point swing in the negative direction for the Biden administration on the approval numbers. With Hispanics, that's a big deal for Democrats, and they should be greatly concerned.
We'll have more of the stats here that he brings, to the forefront, which are, wow. If I'm a Democrat, I'm going, oh, boy, this isn't good.
Right.
But again, you shouldn't have been practicing identity politics. You should have been practicing promoting the issues that the majority of Americans want.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just looking here at Roy Teixeira's column, which is the Democrats' Hispanic voter problem deepens, and just looking at some of the polls that they have, a strong working-class Hispanic shift is consistent with detailed precinct-level analysis of the 2020 vote in Hispanic and Asian neighborhoods released by the New York Times in December of 2020, and the just-released analysis of precinct voting in Philadelphia by the Philadelphia Inquirer shows a stunning 75% net increase in the vote for Trump in working-class Hispanic precincts between 2016 and 2020. You look at the New York Times Siena poll, as he points out, polled twice in September and found Harris leading by an average of 13 points among Hispanics across the two polls, implying a 10-point drop in Democratic support relative to 2020. A very recent bipartisan national poll of Latinos conducted by NBC News finds Harris ahead by 14 points. In their comparison to the merged NBC data from the previous cycle, this represents a drop of 22 points in Hispanic support compared to 2020. Some very interesting internals from this poll are worth mentioning. Among men, Trump and Harris are exactly even at 47% support for each candidate, while Harris leads among women by 20 points. Listen to this, though. Among Hispanics under 35, Harris leads Trump by only 10 points. a 34-point drop from their 2020 merge data. Among Latino men under 50, Trump leads Harris by 9 points. Trump also leads by 13 points among all working-class Latino men. Wow. Said, interesting, while Trump is preferred over Harris among all Hispanic voters on dealing with inflation and the cost of living and the economy in general, his biggest lead over Harris, 13 points, is actually on securing the border and controlling immigration. Well, the interesting thing is here, Roy's talking about something that the Democrats have demonized, and that's the Republicans talking about the replacement theory.
Right.
This is all replacement theory.
Right. Wow.
That's what it's all
Wow.
about. It's all replacement theory is what they're talking about. Just amazing. So in this poll, 54% NBC poll of Latino voters, 54% prefer a Democrat-controlled Congress versus 42% who want the Republicans in charge. That's a 12-point lead. The 12-point lead represents a steady decline from September of 2012, when the Democrat advantage was 45 points. September of 2016, when it was 34 points. October of 2020, 26 points. September of 2022, before the midterm election, 21 points. And now it's down to 12.
Wow.
It said, combined with the general deterioration among working-class voters of all races, it appears Democrats, win or lose in this election, are in urgent need of a new theory of the case for growing their coalition. Stop identity politics.
That's at the base of all of it.
Win on the issues.
I don't know why they can't get out of this mode, but they can't.
Two idiots overnight can understand it. So can you. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Idiot 1 and Idiot 2.
Hello.
Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. That's right. Just a few minutes after we're done on the air, it becomes our podcast.
It starts all over again, like a bad nightmare.
Yeah. And people like, to witness nightmares.
Yeah.
Other people's nightmares.
Other people's nightmares.
All right, let's go to Dean in Colorado Springs. Dean, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Dean.
Hi. My main point is that where Kamala Harris pretty much lies about almost, if not all everything, there's one place where she has consistently told the truth, and that is that she has not changed her values. Her values are to do anything, no matter how immoral, to win at any cost and retain power.
Yeah, we stated that when she first came out and said that. We had said, well, she's trying to give the. Well, no, it's okay. It's okay because it's worth that. Look, repetition on where they stand and repetition of where we stand is very important. So, you're absolutely right. She's trying to imply, though, that her values on those issues hasn't changed, and everybody knows that's a lie. But you're absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. Her values haven't changed. Lie, whatever, do whatever you pretend, be obviously disingenuous with the American public. It doesn't matter as long as you regain power.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all they care about. And I think right now that it's the only game that they have. There is zero indication that it's going to change. This idea of her doing more interviews. She did one with a local TV station yesterday, and that got some rounds, and she's trying to again, the big story that came out of that is her saying that they're lying, taking out of context of what she said about fracking back in 2020. Yeah, no, you're not.
But you're taking me out of context by using me in my own words.
How dare you? That's what I thought. I thought we've seen it. We've seen you say it.
I know.
And I thought to myself, too, well, it's how you guys play. I mean, we remember the whole Charlottesville thing on Trump. We know how you guys do it. But it's very clear where she stands on fracking. Everybody knows. And here's the thing, too. The far-left activists and the activist media is really frustrated with her now. We're convinced that they were okay with the lie if they thought the lies were going to work. But the lies aren't working. They see it. They know the polls. They know the poll. They don't believe that it's close in the polls. I think that there's strong indication that they see the internals and they see Trump gaining more and more ground. And that's in part why they're frustrated, because now they're saying she needs to come out and own it, own what she believes. You can't be pro-fracking on the left. You can't.
Yeah.
And also, we also have to get into the plausible deniability and also verbatim what she's saying. Well, we're not going to take your guns. They're just going to outlaw them. You'll own them illegally. We're not going to ban fracking. We're just going to make it impossible to do.
Right, through regulation.
Exactly. Yeah. And so those are all the dynamics in play.
By the way, Obama did that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. There's a lizard in West Texas we have to protect. And so those, by the way, no offense to any of our lizard listeners, those are the things that are typical when you get into in October. Oh, no. We're pro-border, pro-law enforcement. We're pro-Israel, and we're pro-fracking. Everybody knows it.
You're talking about the interview, I think it was actually 2 days ago with the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it made the rounds yesterday.
Joe Delano. Here it is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I think this is the one on fracking. Here we
Mm-hmm.
go.
All right.
And we extract natural gas through fracking. So I wanted to ask you, there's a political ad on TV from a 2019 Climate Hall town meeting that you had, in which you basically said, quote, "There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking," unquote. The ad claims that if you're elected president, you will ban fracking and you will cost Pennsylvania over 300,000 jobs. Have you changed your view on fracking? And if so, why?
So let me start by saying that ad, as you described it, is absolutely a mischaracterization that I think is intended to make people afraid of my presidency. And let me be absolutely clear, as I've been when I said it back in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, I cast the tie-breaking vote to open up more fracking leases. And my perspective on this is grounded in a number of things, including that we don't have to ban fracking to do the work that we can do to also invest in a clean energy economy.
There you go. She didn't in 2020. What she said was Biden would not ban fracking.
Right.
She didn't say she wouldn't. She said Biden. But no, the ad is absolutely the quote of what you said, and nobody believes you. She's trying to say that she, in the one bill, the only reason that of course she was going to sign the bill because it was a majority Democrat bill. In order to get the Republican votes, they needed to have at least, put some easing of fracking, and so she agreed. She signed it because that's what she does.
Right.
She was the tie-breaking vote, but in order to get there, that's the, in order to get, that through, That was that Build Back Better?
Inflation Reduction Act.
Inflation Reduction Act, yeah, exactly. Which caused us the inflation that we have today.
Exactly.
And so when you see that, when you see, actually that came from because no Republican voted for that bill. That was complete Democrat votes for that bill, the infrastructure. So I was thinking of another bill, but that was full. And so what you had was you had Democrats in energy states that said, okay, if we do this, you need to at least make the attempt to say, so we can vote for it.
Mm-hmm.
That you need to make the attempt at least that you're not going to ban fracking. You may open up in certain areas. But as we know, it's the same philosophy that Obama had. Didn't matter if you banned it or not. You regulate the daylights out of it where it's not profitable to make it. We already know. We've been down this track before. But as we know, this was not yeah, I will agree with her. It is an ad to make people afraid of her presidency. I will agree with her on that.
And they should be.
And they should be, yes. Because she would do everything she possibly could to ban fracking.
Yeah, I cast the tie-breaking vote to open up more fracking. Leases, she added, referencing her role as vice president in getting the so-called Inflation Reduction Act through the deadlocked Senate. It's, again, this play on words. I never said that. I never said that. I never said that. We know where she stands. Because the question then becomes, does anyone believe she's pro-fracking?
Because that's what she said. She's not saying, I changed my mind because of it. What she's trying to say is, I've always been pro-fracking.
Exactly.
That's the message she's trying to put out.
And nobody
that's a
believes
lie.
That. Nobody believes that for a second.
Right. No Democrat believes that.
That's it. And the left is getting more and more frustrated because they believe it's not working. Lying to seem more like Trump is not what they want her to do because they believe it's not winning.
Well, you had that Simone Sanders on MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we vote for them? They're basically saying we agree with Trump's major policies. Why would we vote for them?
Right.
I can understand people being upset. And you started seeing it this week. You and I mentioned Simone Sanders was one of them after the Walz debate that you could tell are furious at where this campaign is going, the far left, by saying basically we like Kamaga.
Right.
Kamaga is who we're looking to vote for. That's not who they're looking to vote for.
Right.
Ilhan Omar said it, I think, in the article that was put out yesterday, where she was saying, no, we believe we can push her a lot farther left than Biden, of course, because she's lying.
Yep.
And Democrats know it. Mark Cuban knows she's lying.
Yep.
He's having a hard time defending her flip-flops on it, which is just, it's embarrassing, actually, to watch.
Yeah.
From Cuban, especially. Because we know he's not stupid, but he's acting stupid.
Yep. He is. And it's everything, all the hoops they're trying to jump through when really, again, he on the border, he's trying to make it seem like she's changed her mind, and she keeps saying, my values haven't changed.
Right.
So Mark is taking a position that she's not even taking in terms of changing her mind.
Right.
Why are you doing that, Mark? Did you have a conversation with her, Mark, that we're not privy to? Did she tell you something that she hasn't said to anyone in the limited media she's talked to? And the limited number of appearances she's made before the American people as the nominee for President of the United States for the Democratic Party? I had to say all of that out loud. The limited media appearances she's made, which, by the way, includes their own convention and debate. You have to include those just to punch her numbers up. What the hell's going on? This is why Carville's so frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
This is why.
Yeah, he was.
And then he's saying race to the finish and the whole thing. I didn't preview. Did you preview the?
Yeah, I played, and there's too much cursing.
Okay, I figured there would be. It was a podcast. But
if we weren't on the radio, I would love to play it because the cursing shows how upset he is.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely through the roof on this. And then he starts saying there's going to, where it's a race to the finish, and he believes there's going to be a plot twist at the end. Would that be Trump winning by 10 points? I mean, what plot twist is there going to be from the Harris campaign? Basically implying the old October surprise. Surprise, her campaign isn't real.
What the F are y'all doing in the this is a quote.
Yeah, from him.
In the Harris campaign. Get her out there now.
Yeah.
They ought to have Obama and Nancy Pelosi, and they ought to do a Zoom call with the national media. I mean, kick the crap out of this now. Use everything.
Yep. This is...
What the F are you people doing? Get off your A. Move.
Yeah, I'd love to be in the campaign war room with him. But he hit on something. Where are they? When Hillary was on MSNBC saying, as the reigning queen of misinformation and the driver and originator of the Russian hoax, that misinformation should be punishable by jail time on MSNBC, while she's technically out there as a surrogate, you don't really actually see the Clintons and the Obamas out there as real big surrogates. And why is that? I'll tell you why. If I were a former president or spouse of a former president, and someone in my party's running and they say, hey, we need you to be out there for us, but they themselves weren't out there, I'd say, nope, I'll follow your lead. So those big surrogates you don't see in big numbers and in big appearances for a reason. Because I wouldn't put myself out there when she wasn't out there.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The other thing that really got me, because earlier this week, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, was, John Kerry in the audio cut that he talked about basically getting rid of the First Amendment.
Yeah, right.
And Hillary said it a couple of weeks ago, too.
Yep.
This is mind-boggling because they're so blunt on it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA. We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me just take a rest for a moment here. It's been such a busy week. Can we just sit back and take a breather here for a moment?
All right, Coach, can I take a knee?
Don't worry.
At my age, taking a knee, I have to get back up.
Don't worry. We're going to deliver in just a second.
Yeah.
Don't worry. But we just want to maybe stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a little bit of yoga over here. Get my muscles ready to get back to the driving range this weekend.
Yeah, listen to me. I want to talk about
Timbals, and girly men. With a fine listener who wrote us an email and said, I believe that Arnold would call him a girly man. The listener writes, I think the former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger would refer to these politicians today as girly men.
Got to pump him up.
Thank you, Donato, in New York City. Thank you very much for listening.
Oh, my gosh.
Listen to me. Listen to Gary, what we've been saying all this time. It's the girly man. Is he going to do a cartwheel? I'm just waiting. How far does it go?
You know, I mentioned before, because it's actually true. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, well, would you ever do yoga? I go, well, wait, out of your mind? And now, like, many times in the morning, I mean, my doctor told me way back, maybe you should, when you go out golfing or do something, do some yoga stretches beforehand. And I did research on it. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm doing yoga stretches. That's how old I am. But it really works. I mean, it's you know what it is?
My sciatica would have been crippling if not for the stretching that I do. That is, right out. My wife tells me all the time, that's right out of my yoga class. Yeah.
Well, it was 18 years ago is when I had major sciatic nerve problems. Yeah. And it's when I started doing resistance training, which in a way is just, I'm doing it on the machines, but it's still the same concept as the yoga stretch. You're stretching your muscles. Mm-hmm. It's just having to say the word yoga.
Yeah.
We need to change permission. What is
permission structure?
It's a permission structure exercises. I'm giving you permission structure to say yoga is okay for men.
Well, my wife was in Bikram yoga classes, and there were Dallas Cowboys players during the off season. There was the guy who played the blind scientist in the movie Contact, the actor. He was in it because they were filming a TV show that he was part of here in Dallas, and he was in the class. But it's
you're talking William Fichtner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's from Buffalo,
Yeah, is he?
Oh, he's a huge Bills fan.
Yeah.
Huge Bills fan. I mean,
all right.
In fact, before the season started, the Bills hadn't doing a video.
All right.
So he's the biggest.
I forget the Fox TV show that he was part of for years. I'll think of it in a minute, but they were filming part of that here.
He's a really good actor.
Oh, I like him. I loved him in Contact.
Yeah, he was really
great. He plays a good bad guy, too. He was a good guy in that one, but he
was in the movie with Aerosmith's daughter.
Oh, yeah. The Armageddon.
I couldn't think of
it.
Yeah. By the way, a friend of mine, she just absolutely loves when I say Aerosmith's daughter, and I go, I didn't come up with that. Eric did. And it's like, I just told him, it's like, who the hell's Aerosmith's daughter?
Come on, you know the one.
You know the actor in
in that thing, in that movie with the other actors.
You know where he was great in? What was the TV? Mom.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a great series. Did you ever see it?
Yeah, I saw a few episodes, and what I've seen, I really like. It was very funny.
Everybody's in recovery.
Yeah,
everybody's basically in. AA.
Right.
I almost said AAA. Oh, really? They're in car. No, and you know why I like it so much? Because of the people that I know that are in recovery.
Okay.
And it's really realistic how hard it is. That's one thing that I have to say, and I don't understand, addiction. Yeah. Because I really don't have that physical and mental urging for, anything. You and I talked about gambling earlier this week. There are people that are absolutely addicted to gambling.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get to that point? Common sense tells me, look, if I want to go to Vegas and blow $100, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But to believe I'm actually going to come out on top and win consistently.
The ones that are fully invested in it, many of them typically are in sports gambling.
Yeah.
And
exactly,
and it's not just what I think the psychology is, it's not just about you're going to win the money. You're going to win the argument about who's going to win. And so you come out as looking like a smart analyst, right? If you're crunching all the numbers like bookies do, on injuries and everything else and blah, 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 not the team you're rooting for, not the team you wear the jersey for, but who you think is going to win. I think with them, there's greater pride in being able to determine and factor in everything about who's going to win and coming out looking like you're smart in that regard. I think that's the investment in sports gambling. I think it's also the money, but looking like you've got it down and convincing yourself that you are going to be right when there are so many variables to every game and every sport it's more calculated than a lot of gaming, but it is still one of those gaming things where, you want to come out looking like you know how to master the game and you're better at the house than doing that.
Well, William Fichtner was in the series Mom.
Mm-hmm.
He's the boyfriend, and I think he becomes the husband of the lead character, who also is in recovery.
Right.
But that is, why I like it, that show, because the people that I know that are in recovery, it's a daily struggle. And I don't, it was funny because one of my friends was in recovery, a woman, and I would mention what a great show Mom is. And she are you saying that to me because I'm in recovery? And I went, no. It's just a great show. Mm-hmm. And I did tell her, I said, it does remind me of the daily struggle that you have. That's the realism of that when it comes to addiction.
Sure.
Because, because my friend told me, she said, no, I have, I still have the urge to have a drink every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I think about it and I'm like, I don't have a physical urge or any type of obsession at all. If I have a couple of glasses of wine and it's like, oh, wow, okay. I'm not saying there's not a pleasant feeling to, minor intoxication.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is for me that keeps me from doing it is the day after.
Well, a couple
I can't. But the thing is, I've learned that you can get high in different ways. And I think that most people are looking for a high in life, which is a happiness.
A type of euphoria.
Euphoria, right.
But the problem is that there are moments of euphoria that become physiological, and they might be brought on by anything from caffeine to, just a great moment, something, happening that excites you, that moves you. And when you learn that getting it from artificial means, you're always chasing that euphoria. Eric Clapton talked about it. He said, I didn't want to die because I like drinking so much. And if I died, I wouldn't be able to drink.
Wow.
That's when you're in deep. And then he quit drinking. And he says, I went on all these TV shows telling everybody I was sober. And while I was on the TV shows, I was high on cocaine. And so eventually he ended up with the whole Crossroads thing, his treatment program facility.
The concerts.
And the concerts that benefit that. And when you hear Ron White talk about, as he was retiring from the road as a comedian, he's still doing comedy, a lot of it in Austin. But he retired from the road. And all the guys, I think, I don't know about Foxworthy exactly, but I think all of the other guys have officially retired too. I know Engvall has, and I know Larry the Cable Guy has. But he said, when I was retiring from the road and I'm out there with all these other rich retirees and I'm seeing them drink all day, they start drinking early in the morning. And that was their life. And they were drinking all the time. And I just didn't want to be that old retired guy drinking all day. So I quit. And, he has quit before. And I hope that he's healthy and stays that way. I wish that for everybody.
Well, when I was young, yeah, I mean, there were things I wanted to accomplish, but it was also, wow, can I get a buzz?
Right.
I would think that way. I don't think that way anymore.
Yeah.
I never thought that I never disliked work. But I really, 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 really love this work to the point where I don't want to retire.
Right.
I have no, and people say, well, you could travel, you could do this. I go, yeah, but I'd rather sit in a little studio with Eric.
It's not going to bring, it won't bring me, my wife and I do travel. We bought an RV. We're not going to be like snowbirds, though, ever. We're just not,
right.
We're more homebodies, and we love the work we do. She's in, she's in accounting type work, and I'm not. I just love what I do. She loves what she does. We both work for great companies, but the thing is, you get to a point where you've been doing it so long that the work starts to pay off in a way that it becomes enjoyable. I think if you're in that place, it's a good thing. And I don't want to be in a place. I don't like the idea of escapism anymore. I love doing other things, spending time with family or friends or doing things away from this, but not for long, extended periods of time.
Right.
And I can't put myself in the mindset of saying, oh, no, I'm going to ride off into the sunset. And, at some point I will retire. They'll push us out the door at some point, but it will take just that. They'll have to push me.
When we sound like this,
yes.
Hello, how are you?
And another thing,
Eric.
You're screaming, you kids get out of our yard at the production staff. Okay, it's probably time.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah,
get out of
probably
my studio. But yeah, there is a great high to this job, to doing it every day.
Yeah.
It really, really is, to run towards the fire.
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to discuss politics
right.
and the controversial issues of today.
Right. Right.
I didn't when I first got in.
I understand where they are.
Right. But that's the exactly, because when I first got in this, I didn't want to do talk radio.
Right.
So to have that evolution in my life where I didn't want to do it and I hated it, but I would, after the show, even when I hated it, I go, that's pretty cool. I actually did all right today. There was a sense of accomplishment, even though I didn't like it. It's not what I wanted to do. Now it's just, I'm just so fully invested mentally into every single part of it. And it's so incredibly enjoyable each and every day. And I was reading a column from somebody who's was in talk radio for a long, was talk radio news and everything else, saying, when you're pounded with the negative stuff every day, it gets to you. It doesn't to me.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
You really have to be careful about compartmentalizing that in a healthy way.
Oh yeah,
and I think I've been able to do that, because you have to understand how the world works. I have family members and friends who, when they went through training at the FBI, they were learning things about how evil people can be, and that's a whole kind of different exposure to the world. But we in the media often get exposed to to the same thing repeatedly. And you again have to learn how to compartmentalize that in a healthy way. But being able to own what I believe, to me now, is an obligation. My father and any of those who served in war, I believe I especially have an obligation, if I have this ability and opportunity, to stand for what I believe in. I just don't. I think doing otherwise and running from it would be diminishing, in my opinion, diminishing my father's service. And I would never do that. I believe I owe that to him and others.
Yeah, I've always thought of that. We both thought of that too.
Yeah.
That thought comes into your mind, but I really enjoy it.
And it's enjoyable.
It really every single day.
Which creates all the reasons to do it right there.
But the biggest question I get is, how can you do it every day? It's got to be so depressing. I go, no, just the opposite.
No, it's great.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, break over. Back to work.
Okay.
Coming up following the bottom of the hour, how unpopular are EVs? Wait till you hear this story.
Okay.
You don't want to miss this.
Yeah.
How unpopular? And you're saying, Gary, stop it. I mean, come on. EVs are quite popular. Well, no, wait. There's a standard.
Mm-hmm.
There's a standard of whether somebody views something as popular and valuable. Because popular would mean it's valuable, right?
Yeah.
In some way.
If there's demand for it, then there's going to be value of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will have the latest on that one. This story, and I haven't seen the movie yet, but Reagan, but the new movie about former President Ronald Reagan with Dennis Quaid in the starring role has made history. It holds the record for the largest gap between bad reviews from the professional critics and 5-star approvals from those who have watched it. The Rotten Tomatoes score is a very poor 18 from the professional critics and a near perfect 98 from the viewers.
Wow.
The film ended its fourth week in theaters in the top 10, holding the number 6 position. What's more, it's already taken in $25 million, which isn't a great amount, by the way, for a movie. More than Oliver Stone's 2008 presidential biopic, W.
Huh.
And there you go.
Interesting.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, the other endorsement yesterday, Bruce Springsteen endorsing Harris.
Okay.
It's like,
shocked. Just shocked.
All right, you ready?
All right.
Here's the headline. Electric vehicles, EVs, are so unpopular that car thieves won't steal them. Despite government subsidies, mandates, and promotion, demand for electric vehicles is still so low that car thieves don't think that they're worth stealing. But if they are stolen, they'll cost more to replace than traditional gas-powered vehicles.
Well, there's that.
While the Biden administration provides tax credits to people who buy electric vehicles, there are no such incentives for those who wish to steal them. Would that be the Democrats next? We need to provide subsidies for those unfortunate people to steal EVs. A record number of vehicles were stolen in the U.S. last year, but electric vehicles were far less likely to be stolen. A Highway Loss Data Institute analysis of insured vehicle model years 21 through 23 finds 4 of the 6 vehicles with the lowest frequencies of theft, with the lowest frequency of theft are electric. The top 4: Tesla Model 3 electric 4-wheel drive, Tesla Model Y electric 4-door all-wheel drive, Tesla Model 3 electric 4-door, Hyundai Tucson hybrid 4-door 4-wheel drive, the Volvo XC90 4-wheel drive 4-door, and the Ford Mustang Mach-E electric 4-door 4-wheel drive. The biggest, the most frequently stolen vehicle, the highest rate of being stolen, the Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat SUV.
Yeah.
Nearly 53 times the all-passenger vehicle average, according to the report.
That's a Hellcat.
Yep.
Yeah. Not only are you, if you get away with it, you've got a very fast getaway car to get away in.
This may be the best line ever. If Vice President Harris wants to get serious about cracking down on crime, her EV mandate might just be the way to go.
Well, they do make a solid point. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I
can't imagine. Also, stick shift. Wow. An older vehicle with a stick shift. Comedian Henry Cho talking about he taught all of his kids to drive because in his stick shift, he wanted them to be able to drive a stick shift. And then he went on to say on one podcast, you can leave the doors unlocked in a stick shift. The bad guy's not going to mess with it. They're not taking it. They don't know how to drive a stick shift.
When I first got my 2017, it's an automatic, but it looks like, the stick shift, but it's, automatic.
Right.
Then there was on the bottom end, drive, you put in a drive, and then M. I couldn't figure out what it was. I had to look it up. Well, you have manual. What do you mean?
Right.
What do you mean manual?
Manual shifting.
I don't have any clutch. Well, what is this? Well, you're pretending to shift.
It's manual shifting, yeah.
I mean,
it's not recommended for those who don't know what they're doing, and I don't know why you would use it if you do.
Yeah, I maybe used it once or twice to try it out, and I'm like, well, you're just flicking it down. It's all electric.
Right.
Yeah, really. Come on. This isn't shifting. Shifting's with, the little.
You need a clutch.
You need the clutch. You need the big, thin pipe, whatever it is, coming up.
Yeah.
And then the little ball at the end, and you're shifting it, and you're grinding gears once in a while.
You need a tire squeal out of second gear, and if you're lucky, out of third gear.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You ever do it? I think this is because of old age. I only do it probably once every 6 months. I'll by accident put it in second gear, and you start driving it. Like, oh, God, what the hell's wrong with my vehicle?
Yeah, in low. I've done that a couple of times in my truck. It's new as of this year, and I put it in low accidentally, and I know exactly what it is when I go. I'm like, Why does someone keep putting it in low gear? Never going to blame myself.
But I grew up driving stick shifts really on tractors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was a priest in our parish, had a farm, and I was always out there. What a great guy. What a great guy.
Yeah.
You know, when all the stuff happened with the Catholic priests, and I never forget when I saw, because I had mentioned, I talked about Father Gill on the air when he died a few years ago. I'll never forget looking at the complete list from the diocese that he was in. I'm like, oh, please, God, don't let him be there, because he was the greatest guy. He was the greatest guy, and he brought like a lot of the, he brought a lot of young men, young, boys. We were 13, 14, probably 13, 14, 15 years old. We'd go out and hang out and work around his farm, drive the tractor and everything else.
Yeah.
Greatest guy ever.
Yeah.
And that's always what ticked me off about that happening, because what it did was it really destroyed the good priests out there.
Yeah.
Just like the whole Boy Scout scandal, too.
Right.
Destroyed the great Scout leaders out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it really did. Yeah.
I'll never forget it. A friend of mine he was a producer of mine, greatest guy in the world. Ended up getting married, a few years ago. Got, great wife, great kids, everything else. But when he was single, still, he was a football coach.
Yeah.
And he was coaching Little League. And he said it got to the point where it's like he would always get looks because he was the single guy. He had to stop. He said it was the worst thing, one of the worst things he ever experienced. The kids would score a touchdown and come and, they're Little League kids.
Yeah.
Score a touchdown, they jump and hug the coach.
Yeah.
Completely and totally innocent. And he said, I had to stop, and finally he quit.
One of the things about parenting for me has always been, and I think it is with most parents, that there are boundary issues, and you understand and respect those boundaries, but your children need to understand that you have a responsibility to oversee what they're doing.
Yep.
And that includes being very active in their life and knowing pretty much everything that they're doing. But there's also then the extended part of that when they're doing extracurricular activities, and my kids are friends with still today. My kids my oldest are in their 30s and 40s, and they're still friends with their high school friends. And we remember them from hanging out with them and everything else. And of course, that kind of those boundary issues extend there. So you're always keenly aware of what someone, might think, in any position as a parent. And I can't imagine one of the things that I think of when the whole Catholic Church thing came down is that you're not protecting the church. You're actually doing damage to the good priests. And you're doing damage to the members of your church who want all of the bad seeds to be able to, or to be gone, and for them to be able to be a part of a church that is going to take the responsibility and bring those individuals to justice. It's quite unfortunate, to see all of that. But yeah, it's part of the world that we live in. But also for the same reason, my wife and I were fairly strict with our kids. They were limited when they were teenagers as to where they could go. I mean, for us growing up, I know it sounds cliche now, but, come home at dark. See you later. Why are you sitting around the house? It would be weird if you were actually at home on a summer day. And these days, it's, where are you going? Why are you playing in the front yard? You need to play in the backyard. And that's just part of the world we live in.
All right, this didn't get a lot of publicity. It does every time that somebody endorses Biden. Over 200 retired U.S. military generals and admirals signed a letter on Monday endorsing President Donald Trump over Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. In a letter released on Monday by Flag Officers for America, more than 200 retired military leaders announced they were endorsing Trump for president, claiming he is a proven leader who will secure our border, repulse our adversaries, revitalize our economy, and keep America safe and strong. The retired military leaders described the upcoming November election as the most important election since the founding of America. The retired generals and admirals warned, "We are at a historic crossroads where we must either choose to stand for our Constitution and its underlying traditional values which have made America great, or we continue down the path the current administration's top leadership is taking into the deadly abyss of socialism and authoritarian cultural Marxism." I know who has that opinion.
Yeah.
And has been promoting it for some time. Us.
Yeah.
In Monday's letter, the retired military leaders argued that the Democratic Party has divided Americans through the cultural war. Well, that's identity politics. That's the whole point. Their entire, over the last 40 years, it's been about separating people. It's about victims and oppressors.
Yep.
They're constantly dividing.
Yep.
We've stated that's the problem with the Democrats. If you constantly divide with your victim-oppressor narrative on a consistent basis and your identity politics, you're doing the opposite of what a political party is supposed to do, which is bring people together by the issues that you have in common.
Yeah.
It said, while foreign enemies have promoted anti-Semitic and anti-American actions on college campuses across the country, the retired military leaders also warned that the United States could soon be drawn into a war across multiple theaters with peer and near-peer adversaries, and it could lose. The endorsement letter added, as the administration imposes divisive social engineering programs embodied in diversity, equity, and inclusion at the expense of war-fighting readiness, China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, and global terrorists are rapidly expanding their capabilities and aggressiveness. This did not happen during the Trump presidency. They're absolutely spot on. Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Another thing we want to bring up following the top of the hour, and you had two major establishment Democrats come out in the last couple of weeks and talk about getting rid of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Both John Kerry and Hillary Clinton. And you think about it, how blunt they are with it, how frightening it is. And when you understand the history of the Democrat Party and understand, for example, you know, growing up in the 70s and even in the 80s, where, you know, Dershowitz will say it. They were the ones that always talked about freedom of speech.
Yep.
Now they've completely abandoned it.
Yep. Yep.
They don't want freedom of speech. They want authoritarian rule. It's one of the reasons that Dershowitz is no longer a Democrat.
Yep.
And I guess he might consider, he didn't say who he's going to vote for yet in the election, but he doesn't want to be a part of that party anymore because they've completely, you know, you've got lawfare, you've got the weaponization of government that scares him, but also the abandonment of the First Amendment by Democrats, which is, it's not surprising that they're doing it. We understand it. What surprises me is people that are viewed as mainstream Democrats now promote it and promote punishing people for free speech.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.